Good evening, everyone. I'm Lisa Lyttle. When I was approached to give my testimony, I was very apprehensive. I prayed a lot about it, and here I am. Public speaking is not my favorite thing to do, and I get nervous, so really bear with me. At first I thought, well, how will I be able to do this? But I searched my soul and I thought, rip off the Band-Aid, just do it. As Kathy said in her testimony a couple weeks ago, there are layers. I read a quote that said this: peel back the layers of all the women you thought you were supposed to be. You will find that the woman you are meant to be has been there all along at your core, waiting for you to acknowledge, accept, and love her, imperfections and all. I would like to add to this quote, the woman God meant you to be. A bit about myself. I'm one of 3 children. I have an older sister, Linda, and a younger brother, Ken. I'm a typical middle child. People pleaser, keep the peace. Our parents, Marilyn and Clifford Grassel, raised us in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and yes, I'm a diehard Steelers fan. I had the typical Protestant upbringing. Like so many, life was good. I had a healthy childhood. My parents were hardworking, leading a very simple life. Sundays were spent at Brookline Presbyterian Church, where my mom and dad were both involved, and that's where I was baptized. My dad was a deacon, and my mother sang in the choir. And in the summer, we had huge family picnics after church, every Sunday in the summer, with all my many aunts, uncles, grandparents, and cousins. You could say it was Americana at its finest. I had everything I needed. If there was a struggle in my family, I never saw one. I excelled at art. I loved athletics. I could fill you in on the rest, but I would really like to get to the part where the Lord started working in me. Just after my high school 9th grade year, my father was offered a job transfer to California. And he had a meeting and asked all of us if we thought it would be a good move. My brother and I said yes, but my sister stayed behind. She had already graduated and was older. She did come later on. So in 1974, we came to California, and we settled in Valencia. I attended William S. Hart, and I really loved it there, and I excelled. I took honors classes, was on the gymnastics and softball teams, made great friends. I attended Grace Baptist Church. The youth group there was wonderful, and again, I was baptized. Not quite sure why we do that twice, but I did. So, it was a great time, and life here in California was perfect. Sunshine all the time, so much to do, etc. So, my father would have some illnesses resulting in a double bypass when he was 52, and he took a disability retirement. My mom continued to work. Here, I met my first husband, Ron, while I was in high school. We were married. You see, I got pregnant with my first son, Neil, and I felt in my mind and in my heart that was the correct and biblical thing to do. Since God didn't send a lightning bolt to strike me dead, and since this was my fault, we should get married. I loved him, and there we were, babies having babies. I thought it would last forever, and I set out on a journey as wife and mother. I completed high school and graduated with my class, and my son Neil was in attendance. I loved my role as a mother, and in a little over 7 years, I had 3 more babies. and started raising a large family. These beautiful little blessings, Neil, Ronnie, Nicole, and Elise, they were my world. I taught Sunday school. I was a gymnastics coach while my children took gymnastics classes. Then I went on to be a PE teacher at Peachland Elementary when they were in school. It was the perfect job, no papers to grade, and I could be home with them. And I didn't take any time away from my husband. Children were so much easier to be around. This marriage was filled with blessings, and I concentrated on those. However, it was filled with issues. We struggled emotionally. We did great at projects and fixing things up, climbing the ladder of success and moving to make our life better. Our relationship was a different story. Ron worked at Disney, so we moved to Paris in 1989 to 1992, and then into Tokyo years later in 1999, and then we had a short time in Orlando. It was a wonderful experience, and we thought that it would be a great career move for him. I urged the move to France as I had 4 years of French in high school, and I loved that thought. We could afford more things and experiences, and that kept us going. I decided to do more with my life now that the children were in school, and I applied to UCLA after my AA degree at College of the Canyons. I studied to be an interior designer. Under immense pressure from my ex and knowing that he didn't like it at all. I was supposed to be a wife and mother. After this, I started to work with my ex as we opened our own design build company, and I thought, finally, he will treat me equally. I won't bore you with all the pitfalls we had, but we did go to many different counselors, religious and secular, trying to be healthy. After almost 30 years, I left. I needed more than this, and I didn't want to fight anymore. I felt like God parted the Red Sea, and I should walk through it as scared as I was. The children were off on their road of college and life. During this time, I tried to sit and listen and actually figure out what I liked. I had to make choices on my own for the first time in my life. For almost a year, I'd ask myself, do I like this? Or am I supposed to like this? There's that word again. It took me a while, but I realized my children were where I felt the most joy. I concentrated on that. While I waited for my divorce to be finalized, my ex and I still worked together while I lived at my brother's. I didn't really sit and wait for the Lord to speak to me. I wasn't certain where to step. I dated a bit, I prayed a lot, but I am not certain I listened much. I still stayed at Church of the Canyons, that's where we were going at the time, and I wanted to hear the word. Through a series of events, I had gotten to know this man, my now husband, Jeff. He made me laugh. He was fairly shy in person, and we navigated a relationship. I never thought I would get married again, but I believe God caused me to think differently. You see, I could be me. I didn't have to keep up pretenses or appearances. Although I can be a perfectionist, Jeff taught me to relax. I did not feel judged, and I could feel that he loved me. Not just some of me, all of me. I loved him. We've now been married almost 12 years. Jeff and I searched for a church, visiting many, but both looking for a church that fed our individual needs. We met Walt and Cynthia Kriego, and they invited us to this church. My father was also instrumental in our decision. Some of you have met my father, a very simple, sweet man, who's one of the main reasons we started attending Christ Lutheran. He so loved this church, and he wanted to be here. He lived with us for over 2.5 years before his passing. We call Christ Lutheran our home and are enjoying all the many friends and godly people here and finding more ways to serve. We are so blessed. In my life, especially as a designer, I try to create the perfect environment. I've realized that fits right into trying to be the perfect person, the perfect wife, keeping up appearances and not let anyone know what's inside. This is one of the reasons I'm giving my testimony. How does one attain perfection? We don't. Perfection does not exist in the human realm. I'm still really working on this. Only Christ is perfect. In the chapter of my life now, I'm a grandmother of 6, step-grandmother to 2. I have learned to listen to God more. I pray specifically, although at night I start with thanking God for all my blessings, and most times I fall asleep before I even get to the rest. Lately, my prayers are for others. I list those in need and then my blessings. Here I am, feeling like the woman I am meant to be, that God meant me to be. God is at the forefront of my steps each day. And even if I misstep, I know I'm saved in Christ. It's easier to remember instead of supposed to remember. That supposed to phrase has gone, and hopefully for good. Now you know just a little bit more about me. Thanks for listening.